My name is Novira Thane. I'm 34 years old. If you had asked me a week ago what my favorite sound was, I probably would have said kids laughing in the backyard. That happy, loud, messy, exciting sound that makes everything feel lighter and fun. That was the sound filling my yard last Saturday afternoon when my son, Kalian, turned 8. He told me at least 12 times that it was going to be the best birthday ever. He said it so many times I started smiling before the day had even really begun. But before I continue, hit the subscribe button and tell me where are you watching this from, and what time of day is it? We spent the morning getting ready for the party. Kalian and I hung streamers and taped up balloons. The balloons didn't always stay up straight, and the streamers were a little crooked, but that didn't matter. Kalian insisted on helping. He climbed onto a dining chair to stick blue and red ribbons to the fence. His tongue stuck out of the corner of his mouth as he concentrated so hard, and I couldn't help but laugh. It has to look cool, he said. Everyone is going to see it. It already looks cool, I told him. You made it. Kalian blushed. He always blushed when someone complimented him. He wasn't like other kids in my family. He didn't brag or make jokes. He just smiled quietly like sunshine and kept going. By 2 o'clock, the backyard was full of kids. Some were from his class, some were cousins, and my friend Tovin, Kalian's godfather, was there too. He helped set up the Lego set Kalian had brought on the patio table. There were cheap paper plates and pizza boxes stacked in a corner. On the table, there was a sheet cake with crooked writing and way too much frosting. It wasn't perfect like the cakes you see in magazines, but it was ours and it felt right. Kalian ran back to me over and over, his cheeks red from excitement, and his hair sticking up from the static of the balloons. This is awesome, Mom, he whispered every few minutes before sprinting away again to join his friends. I watched him, my heart swelling. He was so happy, and it made me happy too. Then my parents arrived. Of course, they were late. They always are. Their car door shut with a heavy, deliberate sound, like it was announcing their arrival. My mom climbed out first, smoothing her blouse as if it had been dragged through a storm. My dad came next, holding a gift bag that looked like it had already lived a long life at someone else's party. It was bent, creased, and the gold letters on it were peeling off. My brother Zephan came after them. His wife had their 2 kids in one arm and a phone in the other. None of them even looked at the decorations. They didn't notice the streamers Kalian had worked so hard on. They didn't notice how excited he was, practically bouncing by the gate waiting for them. Hi, honey, my mom said vaguely, leaning in to kiss my cheek. She didn't even glance at Kalian. My dad lifted the bag, she said, stepping back. Here, my dad said, holding it out to Kalian without bending down or smiling. Kalian, being polite and well-mannered, took the bag carefully with both hands. Thank you, Grandpa, he said softly. He stood in the middle of the yard while the party swirled around him. Kids shouted and ran, music hummed from the Bluetooth speaker, and the smell of pizza and frosting filled the air. He peeled back the tissue paper in the bag and found 2 plain gray socks. No superheroes. No bright colors. No note. Just boring socks folded neatly. For a second, nobody reacted. The kids were quiet too, as if waiting for a joke. My dad laughed loudly. The worst gift, he said in the booming voice he uses when he wants to sound funny. My mom laughed. Zephan laughed. His wife laughed. It wasn't a small, polite laugh. It was the kind of loud laugh adults make when they think they are clever and have said something brilliant. But no one else laughed. Kalian didn't laugh. He held the socks like they were fragile and dangerous. He looked up at his grandfather, maybe hoping it was a joke. Maybe he hoped someone would say, "Just kidding. Here's the real gift." But nobody said that. My dad just took a sip of his drink, still smirking. My mom said, loud enough for me to hear, "Well, not all kids can be winners," and nudged Zephan like it was a funny secret. Zephan said, "He's so sensitive, just like his mother." Everyone nodded. Kalian's shoulders dropped just a little. It was a tiny movement, almost unnoticeable, but I saw it. My heart ached for him. He looked down at the socks and carefully put them back in the bag. Then he turned and walked past the pizzas, balloons, and Lego set and disappeared into the house. No one followed him. No one called his name. They just went back to talking about boring adult things like gas prices and TV shows, as if nothing had happened. I sat frozen, watching it all. My vision felt sharper, and the sounds of my parents laughing, Zephan's stupid jokes, and forks scraping plates blurred together. They didn't respect my son. They never had. To them, grandchildren were like trophies. The niece who scored lots of goals in soccer? Golden. Perfect for bragging. The nephew with spelling awards? Golden. Easy to show off. But Kalian? Quiet, thoughtful, kind, sensitive? He wasn't a winner in their eyes. The kid who remembered your favorite color, made cards with glitter glue, apologized when he bumped into someone, and just wanted everyone to be happy. That wasn't good enough. When my father called him the worst grandson, it wasn't just Kalian being hurt. It felt like they were hitting me too. They were saying that the way I raised my son, teaching him kindness instead of winning at all costs, was wrong. Something inside me hardened. I didn't yell or throw anything, though a tiny, wild part of me wanted to. I waited. 20 minutes. 20 full minutes of hearing them talk, make rude comments, laugh at nothing, while Kalian's friends ran around, knocking over cups and giggling. I counted the songs on the speaker. After the third song ended, I stood up. I walked inside the house, through the kitchen with all the leftover party mess, and up the stairs. Kalian's door was half open. I knocked lightly and pushed it open. He was sitting cross-legged on the floor, with his half-built Lego spaceship in front of him. He wasn't crying loudly, but his face was tight, the kind of face a kid makes when they are trying to be brave and not let anyone call them a baby. "Hey," I said softly, sitting down beside him. "You okay?" He shrugged. "I'm fine," he said, but I knew he wasn't. I picked up one of the tiny Lego pieces and rolled it between my fingers. "Do you want everyone to leave?" I asked. "We can end the party early if you want. We can just hang out with Tovin and your friends." He thought for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Yes," he said. His voice was small but steady. "I don't want them here." That was all I needed. I kissed the top of his head and got up. I went to my room, opened my desk drawer, and pulled out a folder I had prepared 2 weeks earlier but hadn't planned to use. Inside was a copy of Zephin's lease agreement, with me listed as guarantor, and a letter I had written and signed. The letter was short and simple. It said that I would no longer pay for his rent, utilities, groceries, car insurance, or anything else. Not temporary. Final. My name was at the bottom in black ink. I hadn't meant to use it today, but my parents had crossed a line. I went back outside, folder in hand. The sunlight felt sharper now, bouncing off the folding tables. My family was still sitting around, eating, talking, and laughing loudly. I didn't call attention to myself. I just walked up to Zephin and dropped the folder on the table in front of him. "What's this?" he asked. "Open it," I said. He flipped it open. His face went blank in 3 seconds. His hand tightened around the paper. "What is this supposed to mean?" he asked, even though he already knew. My dad squinted. My mom leaned forward. No one laughed. I didn't give a speech. I didn't explain. I didn't have to. I had been paying almost $3,000 a month for Zephin, listening to him complain about how expensive kids are, while I scraped coins together to buy Kalian a field trip ticket. I turned and walked back to my son. He was building his Lego spaceship quietly on the floor, still trying to be brave. The party, as far as my parents and brother were concerned, was over. They just didn't know it yet. The air outside was full of confusion as I left them sitting at the table. Their conversations didn't fade, they just stopped. I didn't care. Kalian looked up at me and gave a tiny smile. I smiled back. I sat down beside him again. "Do you want to build something else?" I asked. "Yes," he said. And together, we started building a whole new Lego world. He didn't need trophies, awards, or plain gray socks to feel happy. He had me and I had him. And that was enough. The backyard, with its streamers, balloons, pizza smell, and leftover frosting, didn't feel sad anymore. It felt like a safe, happy place for just the two of us. And the best sound in the world was still there, Kalian laughing, really laughing, as we built spaceships and castles out of Lego. I realized something important that day. Some people can be mean, even when they are family. They might not notice kindness. They might only care about winning and trophies. But you can protect your own little world. You can make sure the people you love feel safe and happy. And that's what I had done for Kalian. Even if my parents never understood, I did. And I knew Kalian did too. He didn't need their approval. He had mine. And that, I thought as I watched him laugh and build, was the most important thing in the whole wide world. I closed the sliding door behind me and walked straight to Kalian's room. The air felt a little heavier than usual, like the sunlight had grown quiet. "Hi, sweetheart," I said softly as I sat down on the carpet next to him. He didn't look up. His small hands were busy snapping Lego bricks together very carefully. He built and rebuilt the same little spaceship over and over, like he was trying to make everything perfect, so he wouldn't have to feel sad. I reached out and gently touched his shoulder. "Do you want me to ask everyone to go home?" I whispered. He paused. His little fingers froze on the Lego bricks for a moment. Then he whispered back, "Yes, please." That was all I needed. I leaned down and kissed the top of his head, feeling the soft hair that always smelled faintly like soap and the warm glow of his skin under my cheek. "Okay," I said. For the first time in my adult life, I made a choice only for us. I didn't think about what my parents would say. I didn't worry about what my brother would do. All I thought about was Kalian, sitting there quietly, trying to hold his feelings in. I walked back outside and stopped at the head of the folding table where my family was sitting, eating and chatting as if nothing had happened. "The party's over," I said. My voice was calm but firm, like a bell that couldn't be ignored. It didn't have to be. My dad blinked. "What? Are you serious?" "Yes," I said. "You need to leave." My mom made a scoffing sound, like I had just told her the sky was green. "Honey, you're upset. Let's just come," she said. "You need to leave," I repeated louder this time. My brother stared down at the papers in the folder in front of him, like they were written in a secret language only he could read. My sister-in-law murmured something to him. Maybe she was telling him to say something. But he didn't. He just sat there frozen, realizing for the first time what life without my money and help would look like. Only Tovin and the kids' friends stayed. They were the only ones who really came for Kalian. Everyone else shuffled away, shocked and silent, their eyes wide as if they couldn't understand what was happening. My mom tried one last time to fix things as she left. "This was just a joke," she said, shaking her head. "You're overreacting. He wasn't even crying that badly. Not even crying that badly." That phrase made my blood run cold. I didn't say another word. I just held the door open and watched until they all left, like the world was slowly returning to the way it should have been. Once the yard was empty of everyone who had ruined the afternoon, I went back to Kalian's room. He was still on the floor, still building with his Legos. But when he looked up and saw only the kids he had invited and his godfather outside, I swear I could see his whole body relax. "Can we still have cake?" he asked softly, his voice small but hopeful. "Absolutely," I said, smiling. We lit 8 candles on the cake. He blew them out in one big puff, and although his smile wasn't as big as it had been that morning, it was real. That small, real smile was enough. For the next 24 hours, my phone was quiet. It was a quiet I didn't know I needed. Then slowly the storm began. First came Zephan. Call 1 missed. Call 2 missed. Call 7 missed. Call 11 missed. Then a voice note. Another voice note. I didn't listen at first, not until my curiosity got the better of me. His messages were full of anger, confusion, and panic all at once. "Novira, what the heck is wrong with you? You're making a huge deal over socks. You're ruining my kids' lives because of a joke. This is insane. You should have given me a warning before stopping support. A heads up." He really thought I owed him a warning after everything. After 14 months of paying his rent, his utilities, his car insurance, groceries, and unexpected childcare costs. After making sure his family could survive financially, he thought he deserved a heads up that his free ride was over. No, I didn't owe him anything. I deleted all the voicemails. Then my mom tried texting me. "Mom, can we talk calmly like adults?" I didn't respond. An hour later, another text. "Your son wasn't even crying that badly. You're making this into something it's not." Then a long paragraph. "We didn't mean anything cruel. He's just not like the others. He needs to toughen up." It wasn't personal. I stared at the screen. They had called him the worst grandson on his birthday in front of everyone, and they laughed. Kalian had walked away humiliated, his little shoulders shaking, and not one of them asked if he was okay. And my mother had the audacity to say it wasn't personal. What they didn't realize was that Kalian wasn't the only one they hurt. They had hurt me too, my choices, my motherhood, my gentle, thoughtful boy. No, it wasn't personal to them, but it was deeply personal to me. The next week, the consequences of my decision began to unfold. Zephan tried to transfer money to his landlord, but he couldn't even cover a third of the rent. That evening, he left another voicemail. "You can't do this. I have 2 kids. You should have warned me. Be an adult and talk to me." I didn't respond, not because I was cruel, but because I had already been the adult for too long. 2 days later, the landlord called me. "Hi, Miss Thane. Just confirming you are withdrawing as guarantor for Zephan Thane's unit." "I am," I said calmly. "Are you sure? There will be an eviction at the end of the month," he asked. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm sure." He sighed, heavy with empathy. "Understood," he said, and I hung up. I went to check on Kalian. He was lying on his stomach on the floor, the spaceship fully built, making those soft whooshing sounds kids make when they think no one is watching. The sunlight hit his hair just right, making it glow like copper. He looked up at me and grinned. A small, honest grin. Somewhere in the chaos of the past week, I realized something important. My son smiled more when my family wasn't around than he ever did with them. That alone was worth every severed tie. 2 more days passed. Then there was a knock on the door. I opened it to find my parents standing on my porch, stiff and uncomfortable, like kids waiting outside the principal's office. Mom spoke first. "We're worried about the family falling apart. You're letting a childish misunderstanding hurt everyone." "I didn't invite them in," I said. "Do you remember what you gave him?" I asked quietly. She blinked, confused. "What socks?" "Plain gray socks," I said. "And you called him the worst grandson on his birthday." She looked at my dad, like she was hoping he would step in. "No, Vira, you're being emotional," she said. "I'm being a mother," I corrected, calm but firm. Dad cleared his throat. "Do you really plan to leave Zephan and his kids without a place to live?" I didn't blink. "That's not my problem anymore." Mom scoffed. "Do you expect us to pick up the slack?" For the first time in the conversation, I smiled, calm and certain. I didn't answer. Their silence felt heavier than their words. They left without hugging me, without apologizing, without pretending to understand. Good understanding wasn't needed. Distance was. By the end of the week, Zephan's eviction notice was official. His wife texted me from a strange number. "We have nowhere to go. Can you please help, just for the kids?" I didn't respond. Let them go live with the grandparents who had mocked my son on his birthday. Let them stick together. They had earned each other. For the first time, I wasn't going to save them from themselves. When Zephan and his family officially got evicted, you would think someone would tell me. But no. I found out the same way everyone else did, through a cousin's Instagram story. A short video, something glittery and silly, with Zephan dragging a trash bag full of clothes up my parents' driveway. One of the kids held a tangled tablet charger, like it was a lifeline. My mom stood on the porch, directing traffic, smiling proud like she was showing off a charity project. The caption read, "Family sticks together." I didn't laugh. I didn't cry. I didn't comment. I just screenshotted it and thought, sticks together like gum on the bottom of a shoe. That's what it was. Not unity, just a sticky, messy problem no one knew how to fix. They had moved in 3 days before the eviction. No warning, no message, not even a smug, "We figured it out without you." They just barged into my parents' lives, and they were proud of it. For the first week, my mom acted like she was starring in a Facebook drama called Saint of the Year. She rearranged the living room, posted photos of the air mattress propped between 2 end tables like she was unveiling a big project. Caption: "We do what we must. Family first." Not a single mention of me, the daughter who had been paying their rent, groceries, and bills for 14 months. Not a whisper. In her version of the story, she and my dad were the heroes, the saviors, the benevolent grandparents stepping up in a time of crisis. From the outside, it almost looked noble. From the inside, it was a pressure cooker. The first cracks appeared 2 weeks in. Picture this: Zephan, unshaven, sitting on my parents' couch in pajama pants, a gaming controller in one hand, a half-eaten bag of chips in the other. His 2 kids ran through the hallway like tiny tornadoes, arguing over a tablet. My sister-in-law sprawled on the couch scrolling TikTok, earbuds in, disappearing into the algorithm. And my parents, the same people who had once judged me for leaving Legos on the stairs, were drowning in chaos they had invited. Still, they didn't admit what everyone else could see. Instead, they turned back to their favorite coping mechanism, me. At first, it was subtle. "Mom, do you know any cheap grocery delivery services? Things are tight with 4 extra mouths." Zephan: "Hey, do you know how government benefits work? Just curious." Then it got bolder. Dad called late one night, voice heavy with what he thought sounded like reason. "We've taken them in, but this isn't sustainable long-term. Maybe you could help out just a little for the kids." I took a deep breath. "I already helped," I said firmly. "For 14 months, $3,000 a month, rent, groceries, insurance, utilities, everything." While they laughed at my son on his birthday, he went silent. "This is different now," he muttered eventually. "You're right," I said. And I hung up. By week 4, my parents' house hit a full meltdown. I didn't hear it directly. I heard it through Sylvienne, my cousin, the family's unofficial historian. "My mom called my mom sobbing," she said. "Apparently, your brother is a nightmare to live with. His wife doesn't help. The kids are wild. Your dad is about to lose it. And the house smells like stale peanut butter and despair, I added. Accurate. But the part that hit me hardest was what Sylvienne repeated. My mom had cried into the phone. We should never have treated Kalian that way. This is karma. Good. Let them taste it. A few days later, my sister-in-law sent me a text message from a phone number I did not know. I didn't recognize it, and at first I thought it might be spam. But then I read the message. It said, "Hey, we're feeling a little stressed here. Do you think the kids could come visit? They miss their cousin." The boldness of her message made my teeth hurt. I could not believe someone could ask for something like that, after everything. I did not answer her. Instead, I walked over to Kalian, my son, and showed him the message. He was sitting on the couch, building a small tower of blocks. Kalian looked up at me after reading it. He thought for a moment, his little face serious, and then he shrugged. "They're only nice when they want something," he said. I froze. I looked at him for a moment. He was only 8 years old, but he already understood emotional manipulation better than the grown-ups who used it. My heart warmed and a little bit hurt at the same time. I walked over and kissed the top of his head. "You're right," I said softly. And that was it. We didn't talk about it anymore. We just went on with our day, as if nothing had happened. But the real disaster, the thing that made everything start falling apart, happened in week 6. It was a night that felt strange even to remember. In the middle of the night, a full police car pulled up in front of my parents' house. The flashing lights lit up the street, bouncing off the walls of the other houses. The next morning, my friend Sylvienne called me. Her voice was buzzing with a kind of stunned amusement, the kind of sound people make when something so crazy has happened that they don't know whether to laugh or cry. "You're not going to believe this," she said. My heart didn't jump. It felt calm, as if it had been waiting for this. "Why?" I asked. Sylvienne took a breath, and then told me everything. Bills weren't paid. The internet was cut off. Your brother blamed his wife for not looking for a job. His wife blamed him. The kids were screaming everywhere. Your dad tried to stop the fighting. Your brother was yelling that you ruined the family so loudly the neighbor could hear. "Of course he did," I muttered. I had expected it. The neighbor thought it was a fight at home, like maybe someone was hurt, Sylvienne continued. So the police came. They made a report. And because there were kids involved. I closed my eyes. I could already guess. CPS. I said quietly. "Yes," Sylvienne said. "Someone called them anonymously. They came this morning. Not me. Not anyone from my side of the family. Just a neighbor who saw the truth. A house drowning in its own chaos. CPS didn't take the kids away, but they made it very clear that the house was not safe. There would be follow-up visits. There would be checks. There would be rules. For the first time in their lives, my parents could not use guilt to escape consequences. For the first time, my brother could not charm or trick his way out of responsibility. And for the first time in my life, I didn't have to fix anything. I could just watch quietly, holding on to the truth that had helped me survive. I didn't start this fire. They had lit every match themselves. CPS coming to my parents' house should have been a wake-up call, a moment for them to realize that everything needed to change. But it wasn't. Instead, it was a moment for them to realize that the tricks they usually used, guilt, denial, rewriting history, didn't work on someone who didn't care about family theatrics. And when manipulation stops working on the world, people like my parents start looking back at the one person it used to work on me. 2 days after Sylvienne told me about the CPS visit, my phone buzzed with a very long message from my mother. It was the longest message she had sent in months. She had broken it into multiple texts because she can never just write one message at a time without editing and fixing it over and over again. "Mom, Novira, honey, we've all had some time to think. We know emotions have been high. It's time to come together again as a family. We are willing to discuss reworking our arrangement. If you are willing to help financially again, we can discuss future inheritance matters." Inheritance. That word hit me like a wall. My parents had just gone through police intervention, major household chaos, and a CPS evaluation, and they genuinely believed that I could be persuaded to go back to the chaos with the promise of money that wasn't even real yet. They were offering me their house, as if it was a prize. They ignored 3 major things. 1, the house now had a police report attached to it. 2, CPS would be checking in regularly. 3, the house smelled like peanut butter and despair. I did not reply. That meant it was time for their next tactic, showing up uninvited. It was a Thursday morning when it happened. The clock said 10:30 a.m. Sunlight filtered through the curtains while I was cleaning cereal off the counter. Kalian was in the living room, humming softly to himself as he worked on a puzzle. Then there was a knock at the door. Not urgent, not frantic, just soft, expected. I peeked through the peephole. My mother was standing there holding a Tupperware container of banana bread, like it was a peace offering. "Your favorite," she said when I cracked the door open a little. I hadn't mentioned liking banana bread since I was 14, but she said it like she expected the nostalgia to melt me on the spot. I did not open the door further. I did not take the bread. I just asked, "Why are you here?" She sighed dramatically, like an actress in a play where she was the misunderstood matriarch. "We're in a difficult situation," she said. "Things at home have been hectic. The kids aren't adjusting well. Your brother still hasn't found work. CPS is asking questions, scheduling visits. We'd like to revisit the possibility of you helping out again." Helping out. That word sounded strange. Like I had been spending 14 months sending nearly $3,000 a month to Zephin's household, not as a gift, but because it was survival money. Money that should have gone to my son. And now they call it helping. Then she said the line that nearly made me choke. "We talked it over, and if you help again, we'd be comfortable giving you partial control over some future family assets." The house. Investments? She meant the house with a CPS file, the retirement fund my father borrowed against twice, and investments they always bragged about but never showed anyone. I looked at her and finally felt something. Not anger, not pain, but amusement. "You're offering me fake inheritance money," I said. "So, I'll support the people who mocked my son and ruined his birthday?" "It's not about money, Novira," she snapped. "It's about keeping the family together." "Which part?" I asked. "The part where you insulted my child? The part where you called him sensitive? Or the part where you all laughed when he left in tears?" Her face tightened. "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "Then why are you here?" I asked softly. "To ask for help," she said finally. "For the kids. They're innocent." I nodded. "Yes," I said. "They are. And that," I continued, "is exactly why I'm not helping." Her face fell. "How is that helping them?" she asked. "Because if I step in again," I said, "nothing will change. Your household stays chaotic. Zephin stays unemployed. His wife stays detached. You stay overwhelmed. And those kids grow up thinking dysfunction is normal and consequences do not exist." She opened her mouth. Then she closed it, drew in a trembling breath. "Novira, please," she said. I shook my head gently. "No," I said. "Figure it out yourselves. Or keep waiting for a miracle that's not coming." Then I shut the door. She didn't knock again. That night my dad called. He almost never calls. He hates phones. If he is calling, it must be serious. When I picked up, he didn't yell. He didn't guilt-trip me. He didn't sigh dramatically like my mom. He just said quietly, "We need your help." There was silence between us. It was heavy, crackling like old wires. He took a shaky breath. "We didn't realize how much you'd been doing," he said. "Not until it stopped. We thought Zephin just needed time. But he's not. He's not stepping up. His wife isn't coping. The kids are out of control. The house." He broke off. His voice was tight. "It's a disaster, Novira." He rarely sounded defeated. It was almost unsettling. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, he said, "We were wrong about Kalian. We thought teasing him was harmless. We thought it would make him stronger. But we see now it hurt him. We see that now." I closed my eyes. Finally, the truth. But not enough. "Novira," he said softly, "please, just until we get back on our feet." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't erupt. I just said, "I think you should ask your favorite grandson." And then I hung up. The next morning, a plain white envelope was in our mailbox. It was very simple. No return address, just Kalian's name written in my mom's fancy, curly handwriting. Inside the envelope was a small note. It said, "We're sorry we hurt your feelings. We miss you. Hope you forgive us someday." Kalian read it once. He shrugged, and then he used the card as a book Zephin in his book. He didn't ask what it meant. He didn't want to talk about it. He didn't carry it around like he used to. He had already let them go. And honestly, so had I. It had been 3 whole months. 3 months since I shut the door, both literally and in my heart, on the people who spent years expecting me to fix their problems. 3 months without late-night phone calls asking for money. 3 months without Zephin's, just until payday lies. 3 months without my parents saying Kalian was too sensitive, too sheltered, or too different from everyone else. 3 months without being anyone's emergency helper. Those 3 months were quiet, steady, and peaceful. And peace, when you haven't had it for a long time, feels strange at first. Then it starts to feel earned. Then it starts to feel normal. The first thing I noticed was how much money I actually had. It might sound silly, but when you spend years always giving money to others, rent for your brother, groceries for his kids, insurance for their cars, birthday gifts you don't want to buy, you stop thinking about your own needs. You stop seeing yourself. You stop thinking about the little things that make you happy. You stop thinking about your child's happiness because you are always giving, always helping, always solving everyone else's problems. The first month, the $2,900 I had didn't go to Zefan's rent. I took Kalian to buy a bike. Not a fancy bike, just one with flames on the side and big black tires. Kalian always stopped to look at bikes like this when we passed the store. He rode it for 2 weeks straight, sometimes in circles in the driveway until he got dizzy and fell on the grass, laughing so hard his stomach hurt. That sound, pure laughter, was worth more than every dollar I ever gave my brother. I realized that happiness for Kalian, my own son, was more important than giving money to people who didn't appreciate it. Not long after that, I opened a new bank account. I called it the fund. Every time I didn't help Zefan with money, I put a little in that account. Every time I didn't pay for my parents' groceries, I added more. Every time I said no to a guilt-filled request pretending to be family loyalty, I made a transfer. It added up fast. I was surprised how quickly it grew. That money was for me and Kalian, for our life together, for things we wanted, for fun and happiness we had been missing for so long. The second month, during dinner, chicken nuggets for Kalian, leftover pasta for me, I looked at him and casually said, "Do you want to go to Disneyland?" His fork fell on the plate. His eyes got big, then bigger, like I had said we were moving to the moon. "Are you serious?" he whispered. "Yeah, buddy," I said. "Just the two of us." He jumped across the table and hugged me so hard I almost fell off the chair. We went the next weekend. It wasn't a fancy trip. I booked a cheap hotel a mile from the park and packed snacks, so we wouldn't spend $50 on popcorn. I even made a little budget because old habits die hard. But none of that mattered. Kalian hugged Spider-Man, ate 3 churros, went on the Star Wars ride twice. I fell asleep on my shoulder during the fireworks, sticky with sunscreen and happiness. It was the first time in years I cried from happiness. And it was the first time I realized how much life we had missed because I was too busy helping adults who wouldn't help themselves. Meanwhile, my parents' house was falling apart. I didn't talk to them, but my cousin Sylvienne, who tells me everything that happens, filled me in like it was a soap opera. Zefan still didn't have a job. His wife barely spoke to anyone. The kids ran through the house like little hurricanes. My mom got stress shingles. My dad moved to the basement for quiet, which was funny because the house had 4 extra people and 2 screaming kids. At some point, they tried to ask for government help, but Zefan wouldn't help with the paperwork and missed appointments. So nothing happened. The house was a mess. Bills unpaid, electricity flickering, neighbors complaining, CPS checking and more. And through all of this, no one said sorry. No one admitted they hurt Kalian. No one said they were wrong at the party. But they all agreed on one thing: they somehow blamed me. Then my aunt called. "You know," she said carefully, "maybe it's time to try the old arrangement again now that everyone has learned their lesson." I laughed. Really laughed. Kalian had learned his lesson too. I said, "Not everyone in your family deserves a place at your table." She didn't call again. About a month later, something came in the mail. A plain white envelope, no return address, just Kalian's name in my mom's curly handwriting. Inside was a single $5 bill and a hand-drawn heart. That was it. Kalian looked at it, confused. "Can I buy a candy bar with this?" "You can buy 5, I said. He put the $5 in his pocket and went back to playing Minecraft, not caring about the grown-up emotions behind it. He didn't ask why she sent it. He didn't ask if he should reply. He didn't keep the card. He didn't need closure from people who didn't care about him. He already had peace. Our life changed in ways I didn't expect. Kalian started asking to go to the park more. We went to the beach twice. We took a road trip up the coast, ate way too much ice cream, and started a nightly ritual called Rose and Thorn, where he tells me the best part of his day and the hardest part. His roses started growing, and his thorns got smaller. We spent more time together than ever before. We played board games, went on small hikes, and even tried baking cookies, though we burned a few batches. Kalian learned to ride his bike better, and I learned to enjoy the little moments. We laughed a lot. We talked a lot. And we both felt safe, like a weight had been lifted off our shoulders. Last week, Kalian asked if he could learn piano. I bought a second-hand keyboard off Facebook Zephonate Place and signed him up for lessons. He practices every morning before school. Soft, uneven notes float through the house like proof that our world is healing. I love hearing him play, even if it's not perfect yet. The music feels like hope, like life is full of possibilities. And my phone is quiet. Not scary quiet, not the quiet that means someone is waiting for me to fail. Quiet. Peaceful quiet. A quiet that means no one is taking from me anymore. That quiet feels amazing. My parents tried to control everything, the story, the drama, the money. They wanted to be the center of everything, to make sure everyone obeyed them, to guilt people into giving them what they wanted. But in the end, they lost the one thing they never thought they would lose. Access to me, to my son, to all the energy and money they treated like it belonged to them. And the best part? They did it to themselves. Kalian and I started focusing on the small joys. We had long talks about dreams and fears. We built little traditions. Sometimes we would lie in the backyard looking at the stars. Sometimes we would watch clouds and make up stories about the shapes we saw. Kalian's laughter became the soundtrack of our home. His happiness became a reminder of what truly matters. I realized that being free from guilt and endless responsibility doesn't just make life easier. It makes life better. It gives room for joy, for laughter, for love. It lets a parent be a parent and a child just be a child. We started to make plans, small ones and big ones. Trips, projects, hobbies. Nothing expensive or fancy, just things that made us happy together. And every time we did something, we remembered the lesson. We didn't owe our lives to anyone who didn't care about us. We were free to live our own story. Kalian didn't care about the past. He didn't need apologies. He didn't need explanations. He just needed peace, and he had it. And I had it too. Life felt lighter, brighter, and full of possibilities. It was amazing how much life you can miss when you're too busy fixing other people's problems. But now we were catching up. Every laugh, every hug, every little moment felt precious. And I knew deep down that these were the moments that truly mattered. The moments we had fought for, the moments we earned. And so, our days became filled with small adventures, quiet happiness, and the kind of joy that grows when you are finally free to take care of yourself and the people you love most. Peace, quiet, laughter, love, life. That was our new normal. And nothing else mattered.